Jimin's hysterical tears, the painful reality that silenced the entire barracks when a global superstar like Jimin of BTS suddenly bursts into tears in the middle of the night, not because of a physical injury or military pressure, but because of a bitter realization about the irreplaceable nature of time. The world pauses for a moment. What exactly happened that caused the man who always appeared strong in front of the camera to be unable to hold back his tears? And more importantly, why did his cries shake not only himself, but also the entire barracks where he was serving his military duty? That night in Jeonji, South Korea, the star-studded sky seemed ordinary to most of the soldiers, but not for Park Jimin. Sitting alone behind the barracks of the 5th Yeonjeon Division, Jimin clutched a small, faded photograph. In it, the 8 members of BTS smiled happily, wearing their stage costumes from their last concert. The smiles in the photo contrasted with the emotions that were bubbling up inside him, a sense of loss, fear, and an unbearable longing. Jimin's tears were not just an outburst of emotion, but an accumulation of a year of silence, military routine, and reflections that he had never had time to do during his years in the global spotlight. Amidst the grueling training and strict discipline, Jimin found a quiet space that had never existed in his life as an idol. In that space, everything he had been holding back finally exploded. According to a confession from a fellow platoon member, Jimin cried silently first that night. But soon, his body began to shake violently, and his sobs broke into loud cries that shattered the silence of the night. Cries loud enough to make other soldiers come out of the barracks and approach him, only to stand there in silence, not knowing what to do. Jungkook, the only one who seemed to know exactly what Jimin was feeling, came and sat beside him. There were no words, just presence. That moment, for those who witnessed it, was like a frozen piece of time, 2 friends who no longer just shared a stage, but also the most human wounds and fears change. Will we still be the same? Jimin asked softly. The question hung in the air, painful because none of them had an answer. While many people thought that military life would only strengthen an idol's physique and discipline, Jimin learned a much deeper lesson. That time cannot be frozen. That popularity is not a guarantee of permanence, and that separation is the price to be paid for every new beginning. In a letter he wrote to his fellow soldiers before the end of his service, Jimin revealed that he was afraid of the world that awaited him. The entertainment world changes rapidly. Trends come and go. And he didn't know if the members of BTS, still had the same place as before. Would fans still want them? Would the stage still feel like home? But behind that fear, there was also a deep sense of gratitude. Jimin realized how precious the times he had spent with BTS and ARMY were. He knew that not everyone was given the opportunity to experience happiness as deep as he had. And his tears that night, though painful, were also a form of love that he could no longer hide. One soldier even said that the atmosphere in the barracks changed completely that night. No one spoke. No one joked. Everything felt heavy, as if they had all just witnessed a great loss, even though no one had actually left. Perhaps because they knew that behind those tears, there was something much bigger, a parting with the old version of Jimin. The military not only trains the body, but also strips the soul bare. And for Jimin, that experience reopened old wounds while forging new strength. When he slipped during a night training session and was caught by Jungkook, that small moment became an important symbol that he was never alone. In the silence of the barracks, he found an anchor that kept him going, a friend who never let go. Jimin's hysterical tears became the most honest moment in his military service journey. Outside the spotlight, without a stage and glamorous costumes, Jimin showed who he really was, an ordinary human being who loved his friends, missed his fans, and feared losing what he had been fighting for. Now, as he prepares to return to the entertainment world, no one can guarantee that everything will be the same. But one thing is certain, Jimin will return with new strength. His tears that night became a turning point, not only in his life as an individual, but also as part of BTS, who will begin a new chapter when the stage calls again and millions of army bomb lights shine again. Jimin's tears that night will not be forgotten. Not as a weakness, but as proof that even a star needs time to cry, and from there he can shine even brighter. What touched you the most about Jimin's moment? Jimin's tears, between touching reality or engineered media sensation. However, after reading the dramatic story of BTS Jimin's hysterical tears at the end of his military service, a big question arises. Did all this really happen? Or are we being swept up in a current of emotional narratives built to create mass sympathy? It is important for us as readers and fans to pause and reflect. What if all the touching moments described above are only sourced from viral snippets on TikTok, video clips from YouTube, and long threads on Twitter without clear sources? Are we consuming a true story, or are we falling victim to a narrative deliberately constructed to attract public attention? It is important to remember that in today's digital age, emotion is a commodity. Stories of crying, tears, and longing can be used as the most powerful weapon to build public loyalty and empathy. So let's ask, is the media playing with our emotions? The news of Jimin crying behind the barracks, looking at an old photo of the BTS members and asking heartbreaking questions about the future, is it really from an official source? Who first spread this information? To what extent did the media or fan accounts verify the incident before making it viral? Imagine, one tweet mentions that a soldier saw Jimin crying, and then that information spreads like wildfire. Within hours, the story develops, from just crying to a complete narrative that touches the soul, complete with dialogue and dramatic moments that seem too perfect to happen naturally. Shouldn't we be suspicious of that? Even in the world of journalism, we are taught that any story that is too perfect should be more suspicious, especially if there is no direct statement from an official source, either from Jimin himself, Big Hit Music, or the South Korean military, confirming the incident. So why are we so quick to believe? Is it because we want to believe that our idols are that deep emotionally? Have we idolized them so much that every narrative about suffering and tears we immediately assume is sincere and pure? Or is there another factor? A factor that touches our collective fear of losing connection with the idols we love. Then, what about the role of social media? TikTok, for example, is filled with edited videos full of dramatic music and clips of Jimin's military training, as if depicting a fragile inner state. But isn't that a form of emotional framing? The video never shows Jimin crying directly. Everything is based on a narrative constructed by fans, then viralized without verification. YouTube and Twitter are no different. Many content creators build stories based on reliable sources, but when traced, the source turns out to be a post from an anonymous account. This is where we need to be skeptical. What is really happening? Does this narrative truly reflect Jimin's emotional reality inside the military barracks? Or is it just a collective narrative built by fans and driven by social media algorithms for attention? Who actually benefits from the virality of this story? We need to ask. Is the entertainment industry playing with the emotions of its fans with sad narratives? Is this part of a silent promotional strategy to maintain army loyalty during the members' hiatus? Is this a form of emotional branding that is very subtle but effective?